I'm glad to welcome you to our fifth day of RNUG conference. Today we will discuss administration automation in Domino using the iADMIN product. So I'll tell you what it is about. A couple of words about me. I have been involved in Domino since 1998. I'm a certified IBM Domino administrator, IBM champion, and Domino ambassador. Our company is developing monitoring and two-factor identification, which complements what we're going to talk today. Monitoring helps us to identify issues and to eliminate them. And today we'll talk about how we can automate many things on the Domino level, on the database level. So hello, I'm iADMIN. This is the virtual administrator that will tackle routine operations. So what does he do? He monitors Domino servers and databases and operates under scenarios and according to the rules. I believe that the concept of rules is already familiar to us. If we take Panagenda products, Marvel client, there is a rule there. We develop a rule once, and then it is implemented thousands of times. So we also have such rules in monitoring, what is good, what is bad, and what is to be done if an issue is encountered, how to automatically eliminate it. So we have more and more servers. Now, and there is a 3V concept in English: velocity, variety, and volume. So data are increasing in volume, in velocity. The type of data is changing. Several years ago, we didn't know what YouTube streaming is, 20 years ago. And now we have a lot of things that didn't exist 20 years ago. So the volume of data is growing and thousands of logs are generated now. It's impossible to monitor all this manually. The computer can do it much faster. So the purpose of iADMIN is just to take the load from us, from human administrators, so that we have time for something creative, for us to develop a script or something else. Unfortunately, people really are not grateful about databases working well because that's just our job. So what routine I'm talking about? Server monitoring first. So what do we do here? We check DAOs activation on all databases, check compression, rich text compression. So there are certain rules that you have to check. There can be a lot of such databases. And there are clients in Russia that have more than 1,000 servers, and each server has tens of thousands databases, and it's impossible to check all that manually. If a user changed the name, then we can encounter this issue. So the user changes the name everywhere except for the title. And of course, a person wants to click on his own name, not his new name, not the old name. So it has to be done manually or using iADMIN. The same for some changes into the database. It's also clear if we eliminate one issue today. For example, we change the web title, but then the name has to be corrected in profile documents. And so we're not developers, we do not know that. We'll have to do it once again. And iADMIN just can have this rule. We can set the conditions, the rule, and then it will check everything and correct everything. And of course, time is money. And yesterday we talked about this. We looked at wider products that save time. And if there are any doubts, any debates, when people are saying that we will better do it manually, we don't want to pay any money. Yes, there is this approach. But if, for example, we go to Japan or Brazil for a carnival, probably we won't spend 4 years to build a boat and then put all our efforts to cross the ocean on this boat. So we will spend many, many hours and days and time and money for that. So it's much more profitable. It makes really sense to buy a modern car and to get to the location faster. And so the same stands for our products. It's hard to find really skilled people on the market, and they cost money, and it takes time to find these people. And there is so much work that we cannot do it ourselves manually. So we are moving in the direction of automation. We create a rule and then it's implemented with a certain frequency. As for frequent problems we encounter, we have databases that are not compressed for many years. Every year we're making audits, upgrades, accelerate Domino. And we see that very often that we have a new server, but there are no optimization settings and databases were not compressed for years. And log can be really, there can be a lot of logs on servers that were not compressed for many years. That's the same situation when we install a very large sofa in our home, but we can sit only at a small corner of this sofa. And the same for the server. We have to use the memory more reasonable. And also we have to compress the files. The less the weight of the file, the more files can be stored in cache. And also by tackling one problem, we can address all other problems as well. And also imagine how many time it will take to click, for example, 30 servers and to check that everything works well. You can answer that we can do it in all view. We can look at the columns. But okay, but what will happen if we need to access each server, each database and check the database profile, database settings, Excel? Then the complexity goes up and it can take a lot of time. The iADMIN can do it in several seconds, but a human being will do it in hours. So it will take several hours for a human being to do that. And if we change the name of a user, we have to change the title, the profile, a lot of data to be changed. And an average client we work with has from 3,000 to 100,000 users. So it's clear that it's not feasible trying to do everything manually in such environments. So how iADMIN works? First, we identify rules and identify the probable issues. So we can stop at that, and then iADMIN will work in the reading mode. If, for example, you can be afraid to launch it, this solution, so we thought about it, and we decided to develop this reading mode for iADMIN. So iADMIN can identify an issue and notify the user that there is a certain issue, and so you can also check how many time it will take for you to solve this issue. For example, to change the title of the database, to register the hot desk. So it can take, for example, 5 or 1 minute for you to correct the problem. So you can forecast how many time it will take for you. And we provide solutions with rules. So you can use these default rules and check the efficiency of the solution. There is a calculator, and iADMINs have their own calculators, and they estimate how much time it needs to correct the issue. So, for example, he says, I saved you several weeks per month. Everything is visible and transparent. So you can totally control the situation. So how much time it will take for you to do this job? So what does the iADMIN do? We support this formula. So we can formula language. So we can identify the rules, in what conditions this formula should be used. The formula is estimated, and if we understand that we can implement something, then we can launch it. So we see all these settings, all the current statuses of databases, and also look at variables. If a user is the owner, for example, we have Konstantin as the database owner. For example, Konstantin Bobrov. We registered him wrongly in the system. We have to rename him. We can say the title basis, the title of the base and the profile of the base will be the same as the constant. So we don't need to write any scripts. We're just using the constants. They will be used for the rules. And this is the description of the stages of the work. We determine the instructions, we can change the actions, and also everything works not consecutively, but in parallel. So we have multiple flows. So we cannot do it like this. We cannot work on the first server, then on the second, on the third. But this, we can work on all the servers simultaneously. So this is the components of the binary codes, there are adjustments, tuning databases. There is a log of what we did. Of course, iADMIN wants to do his job well, but how can we understand that it is efficient? For example, we installed it, but we need to have some proof that he is efficient. So we need some information in the logs about his work, what he did. And then we can estimate the efficiency of iADMIN. Everything is completely regulated by the administrator. So you determine the rules and the graphs. So everything is based on IC. And dozens of thousands of databases are processed in less than an hour. So I'm talking about really big environments. So no clouds, everything works on-prem. You don't need anything special for the access. You just regularly receive new versions and you can check what is available. What do you need for launching? You need the framework for iADMIN. These are just prerequisites. What do you need? Now the system works on a special machine. So it's like a separate server in your environment. You don't have to license anything. You don't have to buy any more servers. The majority of clients we work with have only user licenses. So all servers are included into that license without any additional fees. So this is how it works for the first time. First, we draft the settings, the rules, and we can include everything there we want to check. And then we create the logs, the console. We can communicate with the iADMIN directly from the phone and other devices. You can connect to iADMIN and provide instructions ranging from kill, when you want to stop something. We can check the status of the tasks. For example, we are at a country house and we need to check what our colleagues configured for iADMIN. We can log in and use the Nomad client to check the configuration and from using other solutions. And all rules categorize. So the more we use our monitoring or Marvel client product or iADMIN, the more rules we will have. So we'll have hundreds of rules in time, but we need all them. And we need to draft comments and develop categories. For example, this is applied to the procurement. This is applied to the quality system. So these default names can be renamed. Also, iADMIN has a certain consequence it uses. So the rules have priorities. One rule can be applied to several servers at once. We can use the ID replicas for that, the servers, the categories. So there are various rules with different priorities. It can determine the consequence of launching the rules, just not to duplicate the configuration. Because if I create another configuration, we have to stop right there because it's wrong. It leads to duplication. And so if we're speaking about safety, it is good. But if we then will need to change one parameter in 20 locations, that's bad. We shouldn't do like this. iScanner has certain actions. So when it encounters a situation, it can identify that he needs to do something. He can send an email. This is a default action, what the clients usually start from it. So we receive notifications of database crash or some errors in mailboxes. So we can launch agents, scripts, we can do replicas. Those who are working on version 9 or those who have large databases can encounter database corruptions. Starting from the 7th and 8th Domino, it's not such a frequent situation, but still the ODS of database is improving, so databases are becoming more stable. There is an often problem called ID table is full. So maybe many of you encountered this issue. It happens if in a certain very short time, 300 or several thousands of documents are changing. So many documents are changing in very short time. Then we have the issue in databases. So we corrected that in Domino version 10, but those who are using version 9, they encounter this issue often. So there is no automatic restoration of databases or replica creation in version 9. All this was developed in version 10. And version 11 is even more flexible because we added these functionalities in our product. There is also the logging modes. We can see what iADMIN found. We have various notifications, various statuses. It's all integrated with monitoring, and you just enjoy life. Maybe not in this position, lying down at work and relaxing and drinking some spirits, but you have some time just to get out of this all the time working mode. For example, you can do something creative, write a script, perform some integrations. So do something new. And people really do not thrive if there is too much routine. But if we have something new, and my colleagues and I like to do something new, that's much better. So we need some fresh air. And if we observe the environment through monitoring, if iADMIN is in charge of databases and correcting profiles and SALs, then we can save a fantastic number of servers. Then they can be this issue. When it's reasonable to do that, in what environments? It depends on the users, whether the environment is stable, because it's quite clear that people are getting married, getting divorced, so they are changing names. We cannot get rid of that. And the data is also the number of data increasing. We have to provide archivation, and it can lead to database corruption, so many data. So there are external factors anyway that slow us down. There are forces that are trying to force us down, and iADMIN just gets rid of that.
There are schedules we can make, for example, some operations to be executed only once, so you can write it down in the schedule. Then, for example, you could run, for example, over all the files, and then in the profile calendar, you can just add a new field. And everything could be done through the part directory, so you can write it down, everything in there. And the way it is done, usually we make a repository of some agents and then in the databases. Then you just fill out the forms. In other words, there are also just extended schedules for one-time cases or for recurrent actions. So everything is being done with the latest ODS. For example, it could be done once per week, and when all the databases are optimized and compressed, and if somebody did not have any time to write in there something so they can check the box, then iADMIN is going to correct it, and you're not going to lose time on that, because the psychology is that in the efficiency and effectiveness of your working time, there is such a concept as a switching. Switching means switching between different tasks. So if we deal with some task, if we do only some one assignment, then a person is more or less effective. But if a person is always distracted, for example, he's receiving always the calls, different emails. If a person is distracted by all kinds of things, then in order to go back and then just get tuned into the same radio wave, then you need about 2 or 3 minutes, to get tuned back into the work. And every call which is not related to the topic usually distracts us very much. So all the irritating factors, they slow down the work. And with the help of iADMIN, we can delegate these things and then just work on the development. And we come to the concept of so-called smart administering. I think it's called smart administering. It's a good term. So what we have in there, we have a monitoring. Monitoring, it means watching the servers, monitoring the servers. And then, for example, you can say that, for example, one server has crashed. It's not accessible. Cache has crashed. This something that was developed for many years in the system, and we can find out why the server is slowed down, and we can just save time as well. As it was also presented yesterday during the presentation, you can look in the schedule. For example, you could say the traveler is slow just because the connection between the traveler and the server is slow, or it could be slow due to some other reasons. So it'll take me 3 to 5 seconds to correct it. And clients, they also understand within 1 month with what schedules they need to look at. So we tell them, when we configure the system, we provide them this knowledge. Panagenda Marvel client, now going back to the concept and to the approach of the smart administering, Marvel client watches the users. It also has the same similar concept, is that we can understand just only once that this is not good. For example, if a local disk must not have, in the data directory, it must not have the database in the old ODS. Chris Adler yesterday was telling you that it dramatically impacts the speed. So the upgrading of the local databases, for example, it could be a small database, but it may contain a configuration such as cache, workspaces, so everything there is. If it is written in a new format, then it's going to work. So it means that we cannot compare in the speed a Ferrari which has just only been released with a Ferrari which was released 40 years ago, because they will have different performance indicators. So the same here, the same thing is here. The more updated, the more new thing is, then the faster it's going to work. And iADMIN, it checks, verifies the databases, and after that, what we have to do, the 20% that is left to us, is to do the development. But this is the most important thing for the business. So this is what for the businesses paying for Domino. They wanted to visit the conferences. They went to the conferences. They visited a lot of them. For example, Nomad Web. Yesterday, our colleagues Christoph and Ketan, they told us there are components that allow us to provide security in Domino, full security, full-fledged security. So this is the product of SafeLinks, which is a VPN that is integrated into the CCBL license. You can use this tool absolutely for free, and you use it for free, but at the same time you make it you make your system secure. This way the traveler is not visible outside, it's not visible to hackers. You can do the identification through certificates. You know, it is easier to work with these things rather than, you know, just to travel all over the city, go to your work, and then at your work somebody tells you, like, after renaming somebody is not able to get into the database. This is routine work, which is not interesting. This could be done by a bot, by smart bot, a beautiful bot, but this bot helps us to unload us, to get rid of a lot of work, to free us some time. So this is what I wanted to tell you, and I hope that our vision and our approach to correct work is changing. What we need to do everything in a smart way. We cannot, you know, just do things only manually. You cannot watch the servers with your eyes all the time. We need to come up to a different level. When you just eliminate the problem once, then you think how you can eliminate it with the help of some rule or some command, and then you create some configuration document for monitoring in iADMIN, in Marvel Client, or in iADMIN, and then you forget about it. The only thing that we can do afterwards is to look at it once from time to time and see if the problem, if another problem occurs, then you just correct it immediately. Just recently, we calculated for one client that speeding up for 5 minutes in the company of only 1,000 persons in performance, if, for example, a client or a Domino is working faster and Domino is working faster, then we get less calls, less requests, tickets. So the system is always available, nothing crashes, and it doesn't happen that a user cannot enter the system, log on the system. And then you don't lose money, because otherwise, then a dealer at an exchange, for example, to a bank or to a broker, you will only have to pay money for the broker to be sitting there at the exchange office and, you know, just waiting for the database to log on. Well, the access to the database is something that the broker or something that the client user needs a lot. So they need not only emails, but they also need all other components of the database. And probably this is the last slide. If somebody is interested in that, we're ready to provide this system for your testing, for trial. You know, the goal of iADMIN is to unload you, to free you from routine work. Then you will get a reward, you get a promotion because everything is working fine, and you will be recognized as a good administrator. But this is like a Swiss knife. For a Swiss knife is a tool, so we need a tool to do something, because only with a hammer you're not going to build a spaceship. So you need good tools. That is why we are promoting and advertising Pan Agenda monitoring systems. So then now I'm going to look through the comments. So what I can see is that I can see that there is no comments. So if no comments, so thanks a lot for your attention. Those who are interested in this, please write us messages, then we will contact you and show you the system, and then we will be able to deploy the system at your workstation. Thank you. Goodbye.